Stalked by something inhuman. True stories from U.S. military training grounds. When I first joined the Marines, a lot of things seemed bizarre at the time. Stuff that veterans took as totally normal struck me as, well, just plain weird. One of the oddest was what we called going out to the field. I honestly thought it meant we'd be pitching tents in an open grassy area, like a long camping trip with some rifle drills mixed in. But nope, we didn't even have tents most of the time. Being in recon meant you were sleeping wherever you dropped, usually in the middle of some damp forest or mountain terrain, under a tarp if you were lucky. No comfort, no cover, just the earth, your gear, and whatever was lurking in the dark. When I got stationed in Hawaii, the field meant something entirely different than other bases. It meant lugging our packs, stuffed with MREs, fuel, radios, rifles, batteries, and every piece of gear imaginable, into dense, humid jungle for days or even weeks. And while the occasional centipede might crawl into your sleeping bag, most of the wildlife didn't care about you. That wasn't the case everywhere. What you're about to hear are two stories, both told to me directly by servicemen. One a Marine training in the Sierra Nevadas of California, and the other a National Guardsman training in the woods of Wisconsin. These weren't your average weird nights in the field. These were the kinds of experiences that make you question everything you know about what shares the wilderness with us. Some call them pale crawlers. Others say there's something else entirely. Location: Marine Corps Mountain Warfare Training Center, Sierra Nevada. This story was sent in by a young Marine. He's still active duty, so I'll keep his identity under wraps. Let's call him Corporal E. He writes, "Hey there. I'm a combat engineer with 1st CEB. Back in the fall a couple years ago, we deployed to Bridgeport, California, for a joint training op with a Victor unit. The elevation's brutal there, so we got a couple days to acclimate before starting actual drills. In that time, we did some light hiking, took some photos from peaks we probably weren't supposed to climb, and joked a lot about skinwalkers and cryptids. Dumb jokes, until stuff started getting strange. A few weeks into the training, the weirdness started. Corporal E and two other Marines, including a water tech nicknamed the Water Dog, were sheltering under a tarp rig between a tree and a rock face. No tents, just tarps, rocks, and sticks making a sort of lean-to to keep out the snow and wind. The Water Dog, for some reason, was obsessed with his bayonet, kept detaching and detaching it from his rifle like a kid with a new toy. That night, snow started to fall hard, and they all bunkered down inside their makeshift shelter. Around 10 p.m., Corporal E was jolted awake by the distinct sound of someone charging a rifle bolt. Clack-rack. That sound doesn't belong in a tactical environment. No one makes that noise unless they're about to fire or screwing around, which can get you chewed out. Or worse. Confused, Corporal E looked around. His rifle and his buddies were beside them, but the Water Dog's weapon was out of reach, on the other side of the tree. He assumed it was him playing with it again. "Hey, you racking your bolt over there?" he asked, but the Water Dog sat up, confused, and said it wasn't him. That's when he crawled out with his knife in hand, assuming maybe one of the infantry guys was playing a prank, but no one was there. No tracks, no sound. His sergeant saw him out in the open, asked what he was doing. He told him about the noise. The sergeant nodded. He'd heard it too. They asked the fire watch. Nothing. No one was nearby. They went back to sleep. But in the morning, the tarps had been ripped down. The heavy rocks they'd used to secure them were gone. Not rolled aside, gone. Same with the wooden stakes. Then the sergeant admitted something he'd kept quiet. After Corporal E crawled back under the tarp, the sergeant had spotted something perched on top of the rock face behind them. He said it was pale, human-like, but clearly not human. Long limbs. Hairless. Its eyes shone in the dark. The moment he looked at it, it ducked behind the rocks and disappeared. He hadn't said anything at the time, figuring it was a hallucination from exhaustion or high altitude training tricks. But the torn shelter and missing gear changed his mind. Some people suggest it might have been a tree branch snapping that made the noise. Others say it was the bayonet clanking against metal. But the sound that woke E up was unmistakable. And whatever was watching them didn't move like any person they knew. It was silent. Calculating. Inhuman. Location: Fort McCoy, Wisconsin. This one came from a former enlisted soldier who transitioned into an officer role. He was doing solo land navigation training at Fort McCoy, Typical night op between 8:30 p.m. and 12:30 a.m. for those unfamiliar. Land and AV at night is usually done solo to test individual competence. You use red lights to preserve night vision, move silently, and use compasses to locate coordinate marked stakes in the terrain. No GPS. No help. He'd plotted his course, gathered his map, compass, and headlamp, and started moving through the dense woods. By around 10 p.m., he was halfway through and decided to rest on a ridge. Below him, he could occasionally see the bobbing red lights of others doing the same training. Then he entered a clearing near some tall, broken trees. One tree had a split halfway up its trunk, jagged and tall, maybe 15 feet, and perched at the top was something that he first thought it was another soldier. The silhouette looked vaguely human, head, shoulders. So he walked closer, getting ready to ask if they needed help getting down. That's when it twitched and turned its head toward him. The moonlight broke through just long enough for him to see its body in full. It wasn't a soldier, he said. It looked like someone who'd been stretched like rubber. Gaunt, hairless. Its arms clutched the tree like a spider. Its face was small, the features pinched and tight. It looked at me with this hunger. Then, it dropped. He flipped on his red light, fumbled to switch it to white, and just barely caught a glimpse of the thing scuttling on all fours toward the tree line, moving like no human ever could. He stood frozen. It stopped too, hidden in the brush, maybe 10 yards away. He tried to play it cool, sidestepped toward a service road. But as he moved, it followed, silently, always keeping just behind the tree line. That's when panic took over. He ran, sprinting through the woods, branches clawing at his face, mud slicking his boots. Once or twice he tripped and fell hard, but he scrambled back up, not daring to look behind him. Eventually, he hit pavement, a road, breathing hard, covered in muck. But as he tried to calm down, he looked up, and there it was, high in a tree, maybe 30 feet up, staring down at him. Pale, oval-faced, still, watching. He bolted again. When he finally reached the trucks, his platoon noticed the mud and the wild look in his eyes. "You all right, sir? You get turned around out there." "Yeah," he lied. "Just lost my bearings." He never told them what he saw. Not until years later. We like to joke in the military. We find ways to laugh through just about anything. Bad chow, worse officers, busted gear, and endless field days. But there's one thing that never gets funny: the woods. The woods at night are a different world. They hold things that move silently, watch carefully, and don't play by human rules. Call them rakes. Call them crawlers. Call them hallucinations. Or myths. But more and more troops keep coming forward with stories like these. Stories of being hunted, stalked, or simply watched by something that wasn't supposed to be there. So, if you're out there training in the dark, double check your firewatch. Keep your red light close. And whatever you do, don't look up.